From its inception in 1989, Shadowrun has remained among the most popular role-playing games. It has spawned a vast franchise that includes a series of novels and collectible card game, 2 miniature-based tabletop war games, and multiple video games. Warning, this is Jeff Ball.
And if you can hear this, then you
are provoking
the Attack of Opportunity podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Attack of Opportunity. If you are watching this live, or if you are perhaps, well, we'll start with the watching in the video and the such, okay? Behold the awesome planescape of a 1980s pink fuchsia grid of a cityscape over a vibrant lateral shuttered sunset and 4 wonderful characters that you're going to meet tonight, well, at least most of the cast, from the Shadowrun Anarchy RPG podcast, Resting Glitchface. I have not one, but 4 members of this amazing cast that I've been listening to for the last 3 weeks before, well, I asked them coming on the show about a year ago, but I've just been picking up their episodes here and there ever since, and it is my distinct pleasure tonight to introduce Shannon, Dot, Maddie, and Eric from the Resting Glitchface podcast. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Happy to be here.
I see Maddie nodding and smiling, but I'm not hearing. Going to.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, there she is. There she is. Okay.
Accidentally muted. Classic
Maddie.
Actually, I do appreciate that because it will take out some of the background noise we got going on. So I'll just have you guys finger on the trigger. Though I think with Zoom, I think it's like Alt-A. We'll toggle the Zoom. So, guys, the very first question, I'll ask this en masse. We'll see how much traction we can get, how fast we can get. It's been a little while since I've interviewed a 4-person cast. I usually top out at 3, but we'll see if I still got it. Guys, when did you first know you were a geek, a nerd, a Shadowrun fan? I mean, I remember Shadowrun in 1899 when it came out. I was in like early high school and someone put it in front of me and they're like, look, every 5,000 years the planets align and then elves are born and magic came back to the world, and Keanu Reeves was playing in the original Johnny Mnemonic. And now, should we go? I was say 6.
I was gonna say, should we answer like chronologically? Start with Eric.
The oldest of the old. Is anyone as old as me? That's a good place to start.
Well, if Shadowrun came out when you were early on in high school, then I am older than you. So, because when I remember going in the first time I ever saw Shadowrun, I walked into a Walden Books and saw it on the shelf and was like, what is that? Because it had the great Larry Elmore cover of the group, like in an alleyway getting ready to hack into a door or something like that, and one guy was shooting at another group, and I was like, first of all, I was a D&D nerd, so I was like, this is Larry Elmore, what's this all about? And it's futuristic, what's that all about? And it kind of snowballed from there.
So you said you were already a D&D nerd. When did that take hold of you, the tabletop RPG?
It was right around, I would say, 7th grade. I was really into choose your own adventure books, and a friend of mine, or a friend of some of ours, introduced me to D&D because I saw some kids playing D&D in junior high school and was like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. And I kind of made up my own game, and my friend was like, that's not how you do that. Let me show you how to play D&D. And we started playing in the lunchroom in junior high school.
You're not the first guest to mention Choose Your Adventure books. I remember those, and they are awesome. So let's switch to, I believe, Shannon.
No, yep, Shannon's
no, that's not why I called on you, Shannon, because I happen to know that Resting Glitchface mostly, shall we say, is your baby?
Yes, actually. It was my idea. I wanted to do an all women podcast. Actually, it started with me and Dorothy, me and Dot. I wanted to just run an all women game. I'm like, I don't have that many friends that are girls, Dorothy. Let's make this happen. And then I had kind of talked to Eric about it as well, and he's like, if you wanted to, we could record it in the studio. And so originally I was gonna run it. So like, and Eric was helping me. We were kind of code GMing, like doing the world building and stuff, setting the groundwork together. And then I have really bad anxiety, and running a game gives me like a lot of anxiety anyway, and running it for a podcast just wasn't happening. And basically Eric and I had a conversation. It's like, I can't do this. And he's like, well, do you care if I do? And I'm like, you know what? That's great. I'll play. That's what I'm good at.
hey, when you know you love your creation, you know, so much, like the child is like set it free, you know, you don't have to be the control freak. But what about you, Shannon? How did you first know you were a geek, a nerd, one of us?
So I feel like I've been a geek like my whole life. I didn't start tabletop games though. I got interested in tabletop games in 2006, and then I didn't get to play one until 2012, just because I couldn't find a group. And then actually Eric and I had been on another podcast called Gamers Table, and that's actually how I started. That's how I started playing games. They wanted to find someone who would play their very first RPG on a podcast, and I was like, oh, hey, I wanted to play an RPG for 6 years, and a mutual friend was like, let's get this going.
What do they play over there?
On Gamers Table. Gamers Table was a talk show. It's not currently active at this time.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it well, Eric can talk more about how long that's been.
No, that's what. Hey, you mentioned 2012, and you know what? Late to the table does not make anyone less of a gamer. I mean,
yeah,
I throw around the term like, oh, I've been DMing for 30 years. It doesn't mean I'm any good at it.
Oh yeah. I'm just glad. It's weird because like I still feel like I'm like this little baby gamer, and it's like, no, I've been playing for a long time, and like now when I've joined some other groups, and it's like someone had messaged me and they're like, you seem like the most experienced gamer, and I'm like, oh, I probably am in this group. I'm not used to that. I'm used to being like, you know, new. So
moving on to Buddy Dot. What about you, Dorothy? How did you first? You were a game, a nerd, one of us.
So I guess I would have to blame my dad for that one. He, like you and like Eric, which, sorry, is a lot more aligned in like the D&D universe. That's kind of always what he's stuck to. That's his comfort zone. And he, you know, grew up playing it throughout middle school and high school, same song and dance, all of that. But as a child myself, I can always just remember having books around the house. So, you know, walk into my dad's den and the monster manual is just sitting on his desk. And like, that was my exposure. And when I was younger, you know, he had a group of friends that he would go and game with, and I would go with and sit around the table with them. And, you know, as a 8-year-old, I'm just sitting there playing with dice. But as I started to grow up a little bit more and we would have game nights together, I started to pay attention a little bit more, and it eventually evolved into my dad being like, okay, we're going to create your first character and you're going to game with us now. So that was kind of my indoctrination into the gaming world. And then I met Shannon through work, and we became very fast friends. And she actually started a D&D game for myself, her now husband, and a couple of our other friends. And it just kind of transitioned on throughout there. And she introduced me to Eric, and I joined their group, and now here we are.
That's awesome. I usually reserve this question for like at the end, because like I said, I've met from doctors to ditch diggers, and if you play an RPG, none of that matters. You're at the table. It's like, who brought the chips? So just a curiosity, what did you do, or what are you currently doing that your coworkers?
We had been coworkers when we were working at Best Buy together. But I now I have a different job now. But
yeah, neither of us work there anymore.
Yeah, neither of us work there anymore.
Haven't for years.
yes.
No, I one of my favorite experiences was my wife got geeky with a bunch of coworkers at the Source, and it's like the old Radio Shack. And I walked into the store one day, and one female coworker was asking her about D&D, and I was like, ooh, and they're like, no, they're talking about Pathfinder, and I'd never heard about it, which is like D&D 3.75 as they call it. Next thing you know, a whole bunch of people that I don't know, because they're her coworkers, come over, and I get to DM a system I'd never played. Actually, I had a player rules lawyer me over the screen. Well, I was familiar with 3.5, so it was pretty close to Pathfinder. But that coworker connection, kind of resounded with me, so I had to ask. Which, of course, then brings us to last but not least, currently not least, Maddie, who plays Joe Collateral, one of my favorite characters on the show. Still muted.
Oh, thank you. I always get so flattered. Like she's my kid, so I'm like, I love it when people like her. It's like, oh, my kid's getting along at school.
Like honestly, I don't think there's a character here that I dislike. Even you said, now we have a GM, 2 GMs technically, and several cast members, but there is a rotating cast we'll touch on in a minute. But I don't think I've really listened to anything in your show where, that proverbial bad guy, those actors that can spit on the street because like they're doing their job so well. Right? You guys transition, especially Maddie, from who you are as a player to, ooh, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I'm saying as a character, so well, and yet there still is that wall you can tell when one's speaking or the other. I just love it. So Maddie, how did you first know that you were a nerd, a geeky gamer, one of us?
Oh, goodness. Well, I started off young. Back when I was like 3 or 4, I would sit on my dad's lap and he would play Half-Life and No One Lives Forever. So that was my upbringing, much to my mother's chagrin. But then I was about 7 years old and he decided that it was time. He was a nerd when he was younger, and he played a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, but he never got super into it. But he gave me his first edition Dungeons and Dragons book, and I kind of faffed around with that with one of my friends. But it's hard to play Dungeons and Dragons with just 2 people, so I kind of put it down for a couple years, and then I was about 13, I think, when some of my friends from school were like, hey, you should come over and play this game with us. And at the time I was like, okay, that's kind of like a kind of a dweeby thing to do, but all right, I'll humor you. And I loved it. I loved it so much that I simply couldn't admit how much fun that I had with them. And it wasn't until high school that I finally broke down and like started playing. And I've been playing pretty consistently for the past 12 years now. The rest is history.
Yeah, no, there are stories, yours truly included, like one game and hooked. I've brought this up so many times, but I always feel obligated to again because like meeting the new cast and the new guests. So let's see. Every time I tell a story, I try to make it shorter and shorter and shorter because my own audience is getting so bored of it. It's late 80s. I'm 16 and I went from playing my granddad's like 2-tiered organ, like pipe organ kind of thing, right? Oh no, it's the 80s. Synthesizers are the thing, right? You don't need heavy left fingering with the piano, chords the thing. So I'm in my jam. I'm playing Yes, I'm playing Genesis, I'm playing Rush. And our drummer couldn't come up from Toronto, and our bassist who put together our little Geddy Lee setup, Rush Ella Quo in the 80s, no singer, was like, well, this is game. We can play while we're hanging out. They were talking about the Dragonlance novels in the car when we would run this guy up and down from the city. And he broke out the red box. And I got halfway through the game. And dude went to the washroom. And much to the chagrin of my fellow players, I could not resist peeking over the screens, looking at maps. I was just like, what is this? This is so much fun. Just more. So, it wasn't. I took drama in high school and everything, but it was.
You totally looked at the maps.
I did. Like it was shamefully. Anyway, he came back laughing at me, and they're all like, "Yeah, Jeff is cheating." And he's like, "You know what?" He's like, "Actually, I would rather play, and you'd probably make a decent DM." So he taught me how to DM, and that's all I've done for 30 years. I've rarely been a player because I just love the whole thing. Anyway, sorry. So. Now that we know we're all one of us, and we talked about Eric in the studio and then Shannon birthing the concept of an all-ladies game. But so how do you guys know Eric, the guy with the studio? It's like the guy with the car, right? We need a ride to the country. Call him up, or like we're actually friends with him.
So I brought everyone into the Eric sphere. Eric and I have, like I said, Eric was there for my first game. We did, we had played together for years before we started to do a podcast. And I think Dorothy had even started playing with Eric before we started Resting Glitchface.
Mm-hmm.
We have had a regular game group. Well, they've had it even longer than I have had it. And I joined in, like I said, in 2012. And so we've just been gaming together for a really long time. A mutual friend introduced me to this game, to Gamers Table, to the game group, and that's where I know Eric from.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have the entire cast, but you guys mentioned that there is somewhat of a rotating cast. You have 2 more lady gamers and a couple guys that I've heard in some of the later episodes that couldn't be here tonight. Some have shot just the first season, some are in the second season. But who I have here tonight, I believe, is not credible for all the core, but the core of like the essence of the show. Couple things that I'd like to talk about, that I'd like to compliment you guys on. Okay. Again, just because we're dealing with a cast and I'm not just picking one person's brain, is did you guys had to sell Eric on the way you wanted to play? Because like it sounds like you had like an angle, right? Lady gamers, this is how we're gonna roll. Eric, don't mess it up. We are not your angels for Charlie, blah blah blah. Or did he just sort of take it and make it his own? Like what kind of collaboration? Was there any kind of
So there was a little bit. Eric runs games a very distinct way.
Yeah. That is the best word to use.
And there was a little bit of, hey, Eric, maybe this isn't going to be like that. In regards to like, Eric's very well known for being a killer GM. And we had, in my session 0 that I ran, we had decided we would only have plot death. And so it's kind of like, okay, can we still abide by that? And he also puts the pressure on us a lot. If you've listened to the show, it's like a lot of just this thing happens, this thing happens, this thing happen. And a few times I have been like, can we just like have a second to deal with some of the things before the next thing happens?
Eric there's like a 10% of the show is like us complaining, Eric, you got to ease off of us. Eric, stop.
He is relentless.
Let us go. Now, I've heard the term plot armor, where, especially in a podcast, like the players can't die unless it's like you come up with a great scene. I've not heard of plot death. Is that the opposite? What is that?
I don't know. I made it up.
Oh, okay. Well, you sold me. I thought it was like, oh, it must be the reverse of plot armor, right?
No, it was just like, if you go down, like, because every game has death mechanics. It's like, if you go down, the death mechanics are still there and there's still going to be consequences. But if you don't want your character to die, if you don't feel like plot wise their role has been fulfilled, then you can still be alive. Okay. But there's going to be consequences.
Yeah.
Actually, the very first session of Resting Glitchface, I killed everybody on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Not in the released episodes, but in the episode that Shannon ran before we transitioned to Eric running.
Okay, because like I said, the first stuff I'd listened to, which I could find on Spotify, was Eric running it. You guys were all together, and the contact was to meet Eris, and I don't want to spoil it, but you've got to check out this show, because not only in my years of experience have I come across all kinds of GMs, I do like Eric's narrative style. Especially something that I'm personally big on is giving the everyman voice. So without doing a crazy voice, you could introduce an NPC and there's just a slight accent, or it's his own voice, but there's just he changes his cadence or something like that. It's believable it's someone else, an NPC, but it's not just Eric going, okay, he says this, he does this, right? And then when you get a guy fumbling with his comm and all you can see is the eyeball, is this on? Is this on here? K-more, right? Or I love you, darling, thank you, darling. The bitch on the other end of the comm phone, love you, kisses, type of thing. Like, he puts it all in, and it makes it worth it. So you can't have a world that's that engaging for a podcast with a great GM. but it still relies so much. Swing back to like 70% on the players, the chemistry. You could have this one-man show as a GM, but if the players aren't into it, aren't engaging, don't have their own voice for their character versus themselves, which you guys do. I couldn't believe how easily I could picture what you guys were doing, flipping between the voice of your character without really changing it. This is one thing I love about the show is you guys do little things with your voices, accents and such. But when Shannon's speaking and Eris is speaking, there's a big difference when Maddie and
sound the exact same.
Yeah, but like I said, there's it's in there, but you can see the switching gears. I'm actually generally surprised because, like I said, we've talked for like tech for 5-10 minutes before we went live. I do not know these people. I was surprised how well you guys say you know each other because you actually had that. Okay, I don't know these people, but I got to work with them for money. And you had it not just in your characters, it seemed to be there with the players. Like you guys kind of didn't really know each other well enough to sit at the table, but not like years of buddy, gumming around the table. So if you guys do know each other, then damn, kudos that you guys pulled that off on both sides of the screen because I was loving it because like, oh, this is awesome. These guys don't really know each other. You don't have that, oh, we've been playing for 12 years, the 5 of us nonstop, and now we do a podcast and the chemistry's so natural.
Yeah, we do know. Like I said, I've been playing with Eric forever. Dorothy and I have known each other. Whenever we first started playing, I was the first time I met Maddie.
But I had known.
I meant it as a
Maddie.
Sorry, I meant it as a compliment. Like you guys covered it up.
Yeah. We do all know each other really well.
Except I was the only person that really didn't know anyone going in.
Aside from me.
Except for Dot.
The tavern trope of like, oh, are you my guy? Okay, let's sleep around the campfire, completely exposed, and now I just trust you with my life. You guys always had these quips, like right out of the gate. I don't know you. Don't talk to me like that. I don't trust you. I don't know you. You're just a paycheck, like consistently. And then it grew into like a trope as opposed, and I just love it. Anyway, sorry.
One of the parts about that I do love the most is all of, so Maddie, Lindsay, and Dot, all 3 of their characters did know each other. And no one knew me, but everyone besides Maddie, Dorothy, Dot, and Lindsay both knew me the best. And they were both the ones who played up, I don't know you, the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pleasant surprise to hear how well you guys actually know each other in real life versus the contrast to what you hear in the show. So a quick question for any or all. You introduced the show as a Shadowrun Anarchy. Is that like a spin-off book, or is that a specific way about going at Shadowrun? Anyone?
Shadowrun Anarchy is a rules light version released by Catalyst Games as like an answer to a lot of the rules light like D&D spin-offs and things like that, and kind of because one of the big knocks on Shadowrun was that it's just way too crunchy, and so they released Shadowrun Anarchy as kind of like a rules light option for that. So we because we were wanting to make it more story based, less rules crunch based, and we had a couple people who maybe hadn't played Shadowrun. I think Lindsay had never played a game before.
Yeah, Lindsay had never gamed before, and I had never played Shadowrun until that point. So a lot of it was just based around what's going to be the easiest way for us to transition into understanding this game.
Well, I got to say the shaking of the pool of dice, because you're going for so many pluses or so many, there's so many symbols on the dice, and you line up, oh, I have success, yes, versus how many no's in your little pile, right? That big shake that you guys do, like every roll is like, okay, hang on, shake. Wait, here comes the punch. Shake. It plays so well on the microphone because it's almost like someone's stalling for time while you're whispering to each other the new rules. And then there's the big reveal. You hear the dice dump, and I actually love that sound on audio. I used to take my entire bag of dice way back in the day and just drop it on my desk for the massive DM dice dump before every show, because as we get into virtual, unless there's like an audio gimmick sound, you miss that. And I find in your show it really brings the audience, especially listening in the car, because I don't know if you guys know this, but listening to a podcast through car speakers is not complimentary to the podcast, because unless your voices are really compressed, a lot of the ambient audio gets lost through the car speaker for whatever reason versus your earbuds. The fact that you guys are making crunchy dice noises as opposed to munching on chips, or there's the big lean in on the microphone because you're being very serious as opposed to hearing someone swiveling in their chair or clicking on the whatever. That really helps bring an audience person feeling that they're sitting at the end of your table wishing they could play, but like they were right there. And you guys definitely have that in this podcast, so kudos to you. Which brings me to my next question. Is this your only show that you guys are currently doing? Because I was talking to Eric about the production company that pays the taxes and is in debt, as opposed to you losing your house like myself. We have Dicewise Entertainment, so it can be broke instead of me, but Eric is smiling going, I have this company. Shout out to what'd you call it? The
Side Tangent Productions.
Side Tangent Productions.
Yeah, that originally because Side Tangent Productions is what started with Gamers Table in 2011, and it was just a roundtable discussion. And it was a group of friends who'd known each other for 30 years or whatever, and
plus me a year later,
plus Shannon a year later. So yeah, I mean we've done talk shows, we've done actual plays, things like that for quite a few years. We don't a lot of our this is the only long-term actual play that we've done. And most of the other actual plays are usually condensed one stories and things like that.
And how long?
Right.
Sorry, I was going to say, Shannon. So how long has this been running?
Oh, I was going to actually cut in and say that we do have 2 games on Twitch going on right now on Tuesdays.
Yep.
We have Star Trek Sequoia.
Yep.
On one Tuesday, and then on the other Tuesday we have Conan, and I can't remember what the name of that.
Eulogy.
Conan Eulogy.
So our Star Trek Sequoia stream is very much it's a Star Trek Resting Glitchface. Basically, it's not the same crew, but they play very similar to. Similar style, so if you like Resting Glitch, then that's definitely a stream you should probably
the mercenary underdog kind of angle, as opposed to like just
no. The heavy in the relationship, wanting to talk about who's dating who, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. This wouldn't have anything to do with the awesome Picard series or the anime series Lower Decks that have just come out. That's kind of good.
No, it's actually set in the original series era, but it's definitely got it's a lot more heavy role play than it is dealing with spaceship combat and all that other stuff.
Oh, I see. Okay, so how long has Glitchface been running now?
So our official start date. Oh boy, why did I choose to answer this question? I have to look things up.
Good going, Shannon.
Well,
yeah,
it was October something 2018.
Yeah, it was
season 1 was a full year. It was like almost exactly a year that we played. And then we've been doing bonus episodes since the pandemic started. So like 2 years probably.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Okay.
Yeah, we started. We did 1 year of at the table sessions, and then when the pandemic hit, we were like, well, we can't get together. We could have continued and just did season 2 via Zoom and things like that, but that really would have taken a lot of the things that you were saying. The table ambiance, the rolling of the dice at the table, and being able to communicate with each other. It just isn't there. I mean, it is and it isn't when you do virtual. So we decided, as a conscious decision, we were going to not do season 2 until we can all of us sit at the table again. So in the meantime, we've been doing bonus episodes, which essentially are 1 or 2 players doing something. It's initially, I think it was Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but initially it was supposed to be just kind of, hey, let's do just like a filler episode where we get to just talk about things. But I don't run games like that, so there always has to be some sort of plot advancement, or at least even a subplot advancement.
That's why we kicked him off for one of the episodes. We had a GM-less bonus episode.
I heard that. I was listening to that just the other day, and I was scrolling through because, especially if I'm doing interviews, like there's just so much to absorb you know what I mean? So what I try to do is listen to the first episode, 1 or 2, till they get to a story arc. Then I'll jump ahead and I'll look for better audio, better chemistry, and anything that's juicy that's different. And I saw this bonus no DM episode. I'm like, ooh, how do they do that? And I got to say, like, you guys seem giddy. Like, oh, we don't get to do this. You know, like, it was obvious that Eric and something was missing. I'll give him that. But you guys were just like, you know, like, it was like staying up late with the parents. And it was just like, you know, what can happen? Nothing really did. It shrugged along. It was a great episode and everything. But, like, there was nothing so unexpected, you know. Eric came back in another episode and picked right up. But,
Yeah.
like,
that episode was really, really fun to play. It was kind of like that. It was like kind of like, ooh, we get to do whatever we want, but we also wanted it to still be like a good story and entertaining to listen to. So there was a lot of talking about what we wanted to happen. So we ended up cutting that episode basically in half whenever it got edited, because there's just so much of us being like, okay, so what are our goals? We kind of are listless for a second. We need to figure out how to get back on track.
awesome. Have so many fun TV shows from Buffy the Vampire Slayer back in the day to even now with like The Flash and everything, where they have a musical episode. And there's a lot of parody and things thrown in, either genres from old thrown to something new. Have you guys ever attempted anything like that in the show besides the GM list?
Yeah, ETU.
Please,
I think that would probably be the most parodied.
Yeah, we did a April Fool's episode
Oh.
where we played a different game, but the same characters in a different world.
Oh, cool. Closest we could come to is, you remember the original Christmas Carol, and then Bill Murray did Scrooged, which is a parody. We did a Star Wars episode called Poser Sham's Xmas Special, and because anything that says Star Wars Christmas Special, you know is going to be like hated on but Googled, right? Because
Right.
I put Xmas Special next to the episode title without even thinking about the ramifications, that episode skyrocketed, and everyone got to listen to our kid Jedi being visited by his own friends as if they were like in a Jedi vision, right? Instead of the 3 ghosts, he was all in the special sight and having his little vision, and they're all, you know, and every character got to be character present, past. And the fun thing is there was a natural selection for each character, like Carol Kane smacking Bill Murray with the toaster because it's the present, it's a very violent present, and she's dressed up like a little pixie and she smacks him with this toaster, you know, this kind of thing, while she's trying to teach him a lesson. We did that in a game, and I'm just curious, I haven't seen that around, like I had to ask, right? So you guys have got your April Fool's episode, you have your DM list episode. Would you guys try to do something like that once a season to make it a repetitive, fun?
So the conversation whenever we had the April Fool's episode, we had a lot of ideas for it. So maybe I want to. Eric, can we please?
Yeah, I think it was determined that because we had so much fun with it, and for those who of your viewers and listeners who aren't familiar with what ETU is, it's East Texas University, which is a Savage Worlds game where basically it's basically Buffy the Vampire Slayer in college. So they played their characters, but they were college students and having to deal with a horror situation. But it was they played the same characters, except of course, I mean, that, you know, like Eris wasn't an elf or anything like that. It was, you know, she played Bianca, which is her character's, you know, real name, and, you know, and whatnot. So,
Was she the prom queen? Please tell me Eris was the prom queen, because it's an obvious choice. No.
Well, we were in college.
Oh,
but-
sorry, college, not high school. Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
You
so
said-
I would say yes, she was prom queen.
Sorry. You said
you know,
Buffy, and my brain went right to high school.
right?
That's awesome. I'll definitely have to check that one out. And like I said, so I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to goad you guys into like promising something that you weren't prepared for, but you know, I'd like to see more of that, and I'm sure your and my fans would. Not too much, you know, just the once every season or so, that type of thing, you know. Give a little bit extra. Speaking of extra, do you guys have the name of the artists that we're posting for this awesome, like I said, I just love this artwork with the background, like the throwback to the 80s tech.
We actually received the first commission for the original 4 girls as a gift. from one of our listeners, but the artist is sorry, I had to double check that I pronounced his name right. US Abadias. And you can find him on Twitter. US is spelled LLUIS, and Abadias is ABADIAS. But yeah, I love his artwork. It's so good.
Well, we'll definitely have to mention him in the credits. Like I said, on these episodes, whether you're watching or listening to this, a lot of people forget to scroll to the bio of the episode, where we will list everywhere we can find you on Twitter, everywhere like that, as well as, the artwork. Do you guys have any merch going?
Yeah, we do have a TeePublic.
Like Teespring kind of thing?
Yeah, it has t-shirts and stickers and stuff like that. I'll have to double check and see what the website is on that one, because it's been a while. It's not something that we do heavily. It's mostly just, a lot of it's just for us, so that way we can have things. But some of our listeners have gotten some t-shirts and some stickers and things like that. We also did a couple of giveaways. When we first started, we did a giveaway where we gave the story behind the name of our show is because of a contest that we did. We weren't exactly certain what we were going to name the show, and so we decided that let's just put it out there and do a contest to see who if we could come up with one, or crowdsource one. And I can't remember, it wasn't Resting Glitchface, but what was the one that won, and we ended up like changing it was Glitch Girls. That was one of the that was one of the ideas that people came up with, and then it transitioned into Resting Glitchface because we wanted to play on the Resting Glitchface. Right.
But yeah, so we just kind of took that and molded it into something that fit us a little bit more.
Not just the name, I'm just showing the actual artwork for your logo. The Resting Glitchface, which looks like a disembodied white female mask over top of some sort of cyber matrix. And she's got...
That one was all Eric.
Yeah, I did that one.
She's got the eyebrow up, it's just like it was that logo that actually first attracted me to sort of stop scrolling through Twitter, searching for new guests. And then suddenly, there you were. Now, something else, we are live. This is an episode of Attack of Opportunity Live, and you were hosting to your own, because I want to give some shout outs to, you've got fans when we are going live on a night that you guys are not scheduled to go. Not that anyone's got anything better to do on a Wednesday night around 8:00, but I see if I can say these right. Igrano Cat, One-Sided Dice, Talon, Kyrian Hawk, Sapphire Holic, and Let's Shenanigan have been lighting up the chat. And
Let's Shenanigan is me.
Oh, okay. That's you?
Yeah.
She's a plant. She's a seeding. Oh, sorry. Oh, Shannon Shenanigan. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's my Twitter handle.
Sorry, I've not had a lot of experience going live, but I just hate the fact that I can see all this going, there isn't that sort of nod towards a live audience. Where can we find your podcast? Is it anywhere? Is it everywhere? Is it specifically to one host?
It's just about everywhere. We host through Anchor, so you can find it on there. We are on Apple Podcast. We're on Podbean. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on everywhere. Anywhere you can find podcasts, we are there just about. If you want to go to our website, you can go to restingglitchface.com or gamerstable.com/restingglitchface and click on episodes, and that'll take you to a link to all of our episodes on the website.
Do you have any video content?
For Resting Glitchface, no. Okay. We're pretty much audio only.
Do you have any Instagram, like photos, like cast pictures or anything like that on Instagram or Facebook that people might want to take a boo at?
We're on Twitter mostly.
We honestly should be on Instagram more, because I do enough personal fan art that I think I could actually fill that Instagram.
Get on it. We have an Instagram technically, but it hasn't been updated for
Yeah, even
for
like once
a
a
long
week
time.
or
A minute.
even so much as like once a month, because as you guys start rolling through the seasons, time goes by, and just having that sort of there might be archonic moments where you could invite people. Do you have a Discord server? I guess would be my next question. Is another place where fans would like to hang out, start posting?
We do have a Discord server. If you go to our Twitter bio, we're Resting Glitch on there. It's in the about.
In the bio of Resting Glitch?
Yes. Yeah. And also in our pinned tweet.
I'm going there right now. Because
Okay.
you can't stop me because it's open invite, so that's shame on you.
Yeah.
For letting me in there. That's great. So do you guys want to go around the room, and let's start with Dot this time. Now, whether you guys have a few years experience and now you're podcasting, or endless RPG that you can't remember everything you've done, like some people, like myself or Eric, that do you have a favorite role, a favorite angle, or a go-to race or trope or anything that has to be put into your flavor of character that's either requested by, you got to do this because we're doing a show, or that is your own personal favorite style in your characters?
Shannon and I were actually just talking about this the other night. I generally will fall into like the mother category. I'm either like the, just corralling the herd of children to make sure that everyone's okay. Or I end up playing like the healer to some degree. That's what almost every character of mine has had at least a toe into. And I think Val definitely aligns with that in the show, because regardless of Eric, I think regardless of whatever's going on, she's still trying to make sure that everyone is being taken care of. And I think that even in the first,
she adopted a child.
Well, I was getting to that. Throughout the first episode, there's a character, Mary, who is a 9-year-old little girl that isn't quite what she seems. And to my disadvantage, kind of, I was also very pregnant throughout all of recording the first season. So my motherly hormones were at an all-time high throughout recording all of that. And I think that also played into heavily how much of an impact Mary played in the first season. And probably why she's not been given the boot.
I have someone here in chat saying Alphafel is saying she's not a child, she's an abomination. So it sounds like this is some very good episodes to listen to involving this NPC.
Mary is very polarizing.
She has not done. She's not necessarily done anything bad to this part. She's
done some really questionable shit.
That's subjective. No.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to open a can of worms between you and some of the cast here.
That's all I do is I just put these anthills out and they just kick them. That's the way they.
As much as I've been gushing over every little thing, there was one thing that caught my attention, and I said it's not a complaint, but just something to be clear. Is in your intro, you guys say, "Hi, I'm Dot. I play Val," and there isn't that. Maybe just because I'm always stuck in the D&D mindscape, going and you name your race and your class. And you guys, unless I've missed it somewhere, I haven't heard that in the open episode. So just for audience clarification, Dot, who do you play and what is she besides the mother hen of the group?
So I play Val, and she is a technomancer. And in
that you still didn't say her street name says a lot.
Yeah, like she is. Yeah. That 100% checks. So Val, aka Binary, and she is a technomancer, and similarly to Dot not knowing how to technomancer all the time, Val also is very just unaware of her abilities sometimes.
Is there a specific like I know there's a plethora of races in Shadowrun. I'm just curious, what race is she?
She's human.
Is that her with the purple hair behind you?
This is Val.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, just for not to try and put you in a box or anything,
No, that's fine.
Okay. So Shannon, because you meet Eris in the beginning, the high society. I like how your character's actually dressed like Hitman 47, right? In this picture here with the white hair. You spotlight Eris in the first episode, so everyone gets a good look at the elf, and I believe a couple of the ladies popped lady boners, as you were saying in the show.
Yes.
Which I was driving, listening to this, and I almost swerved. It's just like, oh, it's so funny. So that brings me to Maddie, who plays.
I play Joe, aka Collateral. Joe is actually pretty different from. So Joe is different from what I normally play in some ways, but in other ways she's very stereotypical. She is a physical adept with an asterisk. You'll have to listen to find out more about that. I very much tend to play magical characters. I think in almost every game that I've played, like with Eric and Shannon, I've been magical to a pretty severe degree. I also just like playing angry people. I just want to play angry, like wild card mages. That's really my comfort zone.
Are you casting at me? Are you casting at me? That kind of thing.
I just not even like necessarily like aggressive. Like that, but like she just doesn't think about the consequences of like throwing magic around. Like, magic comes with a cost, but I'm not going to think about that right now. I don't care that it's going to blow up half of the city block or a car or my house.
It's future Joe's problem.
And hence the name Collateral, as in collateral damage, as in.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly where that came from.
I love the artwork with the glowing eyes, but I'm having trouble pegging the race, the character race.
So she is an elf.
Oh, okay.
Her little pointy ears.
So Joe notably does not have ears quite as pointy as most elves, but she's not a very good. Eris isn't a very good baseline either, because Eris is established as having some of the longest ears of any elf.
She has ears for days.
The anime ears, as my wife says, the big extra. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which was not my decision. Someone had I think Maddie had just described her as that, and I'm like, all right, I'm going with it.
That's good. Like happy accident, right? Like
yeah.
You get two elves like literally depicted in this artwork side by side, but the personality, the stance, the color palette, everything is so like differential to the character. You know what I mean? Like you have a stark palette for Eris, and you have a very warm palette for Collateral, and the warm as in like red, yellow glow going to go boom, which is like even her eyes are glowing. So again, shout out to this amazing artist. And that's one of the cool things I love about fan art is you get to see how people perceive you playing your own character. Like you said, ears for days. Okay, you get anime ears. Our character over here does not, and it just becomes a thing. And then the community that you guys are building, your fans, get more involved in the show, or rope in someone like myself. Again, the artwork, it was a big draw for me. So Maddie usually likes to play the angry and usually likes to play casters. Dot Mother Hen is playing the, shall we say, savant. Kind of like you do things naturally. You're not always aware of your abilities, something like that. Or am I using bad words again?
Idiot savant.
Oh, okay.
Idiot savant.
Not nice. Shannon, comparable to Eris, is this a go-to kind of character for you? The talky person, the superiority complex, the rich character. Am I?
So, I would argue that like my baseline character that I usually like, my go-to character usually isn't intended to be the talky person, and then I am who I am, so I end up being the talky person. And also I like to roll for all of my talking instead of actually doing it, because I'm not very smooth in real life, and I want all my characters to be more smooth. But I don't really usually play rich people I don't usually really play the like high society or like that. I do kind of like to be the face of the group, which is what Eris is.
In the early episodes, when you were, called the heiress, as in like a rich princess with an H, and you went nuts. I thought that was going to be the end of the episode. I thought it was going to like people be flipping tables and mic, and Eric would have no show, and it got kind of heated there. But you guys were still laughing it off, and it was
that was all for show.
Okay, well, but then I remember the name of the show was like, well, it is called Glitchface, and she's getting into her glitch on. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's, but again, I was talking earlier about how well you guys were separating player from character, going back and forth instantaneously, and there was this chemistry emerging in the mic of the characters are meeting, but the chemistry of the players feeling each other out. And for me, that was a great moment of players feeling out players, going, okay. And I hope I can quote you, because it was just the other day I heard this. You said, it's just me. I don't like that spelling. Eric is like, put that on me. My character's name is this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
that was Kamor. Kamor was the one who said that the first time, because it was, because I was like, I don't know, she was, she must be an heiress or something, because first of all, Kamor is the trash, one of Joe's trash dads, and he can't read real well. So if he's given a text message of this is what this person's name is, he's like, I don't know, maybe I misspelled it, or maybe I misread it. So yeah, and it didn't occur to me that Eris and Eris, Eris, and Eris, as the heiress, sounded the same, because until I said it, and then as soon as I said it, that was really kind of a moment, one of those like ad lib moments that kind of stuck. And then because Shannon and I are such good friends, as soon as I saw that it irritated her, I had to keep doing it.
You had to lean in, right?
Yeah.
So
it's definitely one of those things where it's like, Eric definitely likes to poke players, and he knew at that point, he only knew me and Dorothy, or me and Dot, and so it's like kind of leaned into it. I think not only was it, here's gonna be a funny thing, but also this is what you're in for, Maddie and Lindsay.
Yes.
100%. As long as you're wearing those sunglasses and you get to play this character that doesn't suffer a plot death, this is what you're in for, right? Now, giving Eric a chance to shine, but only just because I DM myself. Most RPGs, and let's say a lot of them are based in fantasy world, you bring the world to life, and there are some notable NPCs, and a lot of them are monologuing bad guys. When you play a modern society game, or a super fantasy game, there are these contacts, these NPCs that are part of your life, part of your backstory, and they're repetitive. Like, they're going to come up again and again. And I was curious if you guys had a favorite, or if there's a fan favorite that Eric does. I've only heard a couple, and like I said, the darling one, the sort of I want to. Ari? Is it Ari? Sorry. Yeah, I'm really bad with names.
Ariana.
Ari, and like I said, this guy he was just doing now, the trash daddy, as you said, with describing the big eyeball looking into the hollow thing because he's got too close face going, is this on here right now? Type of thing. Doing the stereotypical tropes of city people making your city alive. That's on the GM. And it occurred to me, something like in Shadowrun, where you guys are playing in sort of altered St. Louis, I believe you guys brought up St. Louis, right? You reskin it, you revamp it, right? And there is that hard city, that dark city, that sin city, that cyberpunk with magic, mega corporation city, which is Shadowrun, but it's not all kicking open doors and killing people and moving on to the next guy. And yet there are NPCs that come in with a body, drop them on a table, and you guys said he was trouble, and someone put a gun to his head, and then you ask, who was he? Somebody off this guy that Eric dumped as an NPC on a table. Somebody kills him. You guys are in a storage unit, right? And you have that disposable hardcore moment, and yet there's flashbacks to these people that you call when you're in trouble. I need money. I need a favor. I need my next job. And I think Eric does a fantastic job with these NPCs, and this is why my question, going back after the tangent, is do you guys have a favorite NPC? Do the fans who have listened to much more of this than I do have a favorite NPC that gets commented on?
Well, when it comes to the listeners, NPC wise, Kmore, the one that I just did, I think is usually the one that resonates with people because he's such a disaster. He's a dwarf who is also the fight promoter for Joe, and he took on this like fatherly role for her. And I think Maddie, you just had Kmore just listed as your fight promoter, right?
Yeah, he was actually originally just going to be like the fixer for our crew. But he grew into so much more, and I'm really glad that he did.
He's like this Uncle Burnout guy that kind of looks after you in the wrong kind of way, and then
Yeah. His idea of like keeping me out of trouble is actually more like getting us into trouble.
Has Kmore ever had a shining moment, like where you can't trust him, nothing or whatever, and you guys are like back against the wall, and then like Kmore does something like literally would pull a rabbit out of the hat to save your butts? Has there ever been anything like that?
No, it's been the exact opposite.
That's not.
Yeah,
that's
he's
not
gotten us
Kmore.
into more trouble.
Yeah,
than
okay.
every single time.
So it's like you guys are being very stealthy. If anyone makes a move, a noise, you're dead, and Joe's phone goes off, and there's Kmore going, "I got the information you wanted. I went right to Hollow." Make big da 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 da. Something like that's always going to happen in the show.
It's more of a phone call. Joe, I slipped in the shower and broke my knee. Can you come help me?
God,
that kind of thing.
In the middle of like the most inconvenient time, I'll get phone calls. It's never in like sneaky Shadowrun situations because I don't know if you've listened to the show. But
I'm trying to catch up as quickly as I can. Like I said,
we're the Gilmore Girls of Shadowrun for a reason.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
But anytime there's like a serious tense social interaction, there's Kmore.
See, now I put it to anyone listening to my voice right now. If you're a fan and have any decent artistry, I want you to pull up some adverts for the Gilmore Girls, and then see if you can't do artwork like within the poses of the mom and the daughter, that type of thing, or put them in some kind of situation. We'll start a fund me, to pay for this commission, and then put it up there because personally I love that kind of thing. We have a podcast where they decided to play all dwarves, and I had an artist working with them to put them in the Charlie's Angel pose, so that there's the three silhouettes. So instead of the girls, right, you have the one with the walkie-talkie in the back, and one doing the karate, and one doing the gun. In place of the gun, I have the sorcerer, because he's always doing magic missile, never misses. We actually have a dwarven monk, so it went naturally in the place of the karate girl, and then your classic dwarf in the back in front of this portal. And I'm running around asking all these artists, can you do this? How much? Can you do this? How much? And I was in the middle of negotiating with one, and he nailed it, even though it looked awkwardly done. He nailed it right at the gate. Unfortunately, I was trying to have too many conversations with too many people at one time. And I made a very personal comment to my wife, and he thought it was to him. And he said, "You know what? Keep the artwork. That's a deal breaker." I'm like, "Dude, I'm sorry. I was talking to my wife, not you."
Oh no.
And he's like, I took it out of the messenger. He's like, "I could never unsee that." It's like, it wasn't anything that bad, but it was definitely could be taken in strange context, And that's my terrible artist story. But what I was getting at, though, in a very roundabout kind of way, the NPCs versus the character, like the chemistry back and forth. Have you guys got so far into your characters now after how many seasons? Like, what season are you guys in now? 3?
We just started recording season 2.
Season 2. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You're well into season 2, ready to go.
Hasn't been released, just recorded.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you guys just started season 2 as in like uploading, but you've recorded.
No, we recorded them. We haven't uploaded them yet. We still have like 3 bonus episodes.
I'm sorry. Shannon and I have this terrible miscommunication. Like, it started when we were back and forth. First, she couldn't understand what I'm saying, and now obviously I'm not catching what she's laying down. I'm sorry.
So what we have on out right now is all of season 1 and a handful of bonus episodes.
Okay.
We have like 3 more bonus episodes that are waiting to be released. And then we've started recording season 2, but we haven't released them yet.
Okay. Now, do you guys bank episodes? Do you have bonus episodes early release for your patrons? And if someone wanted to support the show, leading to my next question, see how sly that was? Get you some money. Do you guys have a Patreon? If somebody wants to support the show, then besides this awesome random artwork, I would like to see more of that. But
Yes, we have a Patreon. It's Patreon / Resting Glitchface.
Okay. And do the patrons, are they lucky enough to get any kind of early access?
Yes, we with regular episodes we'll put up the raws. So we heavily edit all of our episodes. So I mean, from what 3.5 hour game session, all of our sweet spot for released episodes are like 45 minutes, hour. We don't like to go over an hour, so we heavily edit our stuff. But we know that some people just want to hear us play the game at the table. So if you're a patron, then you will get access to the season episodes completely raw. So just
okay.
Yeah, so that's one of the perks for that. We've done a couple other things with patrons in the past. We've actually ran a Kickstarter in the past to help with the studio, help fund the studio and things like that, keep the lights on and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like one of the was it 3 bonus episodes that we did?
Yeah, for Dr. Plague.
For Dr. Plague was actually.
Or it's 4.
Was it 4? Yeah.
Yeah.
4 episodes of bonus episodes was actually one of our Kickstarter backers who backed at a level where he got his own private game, private actual play. And we brought in some of the players, the PCs for the game. There were other people who backed to create characters, and we were like, let's just bring. I checked with him. I was like, are you cool with bringing other people in? He's like, oh yeah, let's bring everybody in. So it started off where it was just going to be him having his own actual play. It set in this world, and he was like, no, let's make it part of the canon. Let's make it part of everything. So yeah, we try to incorporate a lot of our backers and our community in a lot of our things. We've had guest players and things like that. One of the guest players plays the character Skitch, who is actually his name's Mark, and he actually wrote the GM section for 5th edition Shadowrun, and he played quite a few games with us. Just because he's like, I love Shadowrun, I helped write it, I want to play in a game, I love what you guys do, can I play? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, does he bus out to you? Like, do you get him in the studio, or do you work with him virtually?
He lives in a different state, so he actually did I think it was I don't think it was Zoom, I think it was he did it remotely. So we were all in the studio, and then we had him do it remotely. It worked out.
He was like the big head on the screen and player slot number 4 kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, first of all, man, that's like obvious props that someone that worked on the project reached out to you. That's huge recognition. But the fact you're willing to do this with fans, Kickstarter, whoever, is very generous of your time. I have worked with fans and whatever, and I've had both good and patient trying experiences. Let's put it that way. But always a happy ending, always worth it.
Oh yeah,
always worth it to have a cross promotional, someone from another podcast sit in and play an NPC. We recently did a scene for our We Shot First podcast, our Star Wars podcast, the Saga Edition Dawn of Defiance I was going on about earlier. There's a scene in Bespin, and there's a big casino tournament. And one of the most interesting NPCs you're going to meet is one of these card players, and he really is like Val Kilmer from Tombstone. And we had one of our patrons sit in and play him for 3 sessions, back and forth, the whole bit. Everything goes south. Buddy pulls a gun. He got to do the fight, and he absolutely loved it. And it was one of our proud moments to use, a fan, just anybody can game. That's the idea. Anyone can roll dice. Anyone can game. Sure, you have your friends, you have your chemistry or whatever, but you always want your fans to feel like, hey, if we could get you in, we would. That kind of thing. They always got to envision someone, the audience, that 6th player, at the end of the table, and the whole cast turns, and what would you do? That kind of thing. You guys are turning to the microphone or, acknowledging the audience. So when I see patrons, we've done it. You guys are talking about some actual names, like guys that wrote the book. That's really cool. Sitting in. I absolutely love that. Growth in the community, fans love that kind of thing. I love seeing that, especially down at our level where we're not some big production company and someone's paying a big actor to do a big walk on. We have Matt Mercer gets Vin Diesel to come on. That's cool. but it's like there's obviously some budget throwing around there, you know. Which brings me to my next question, since we've hit the hour mark and we're running a little bit long, is what does the future hold? Now, obviously you can't tell us any spoilers, but maybe some teasers, some little bit trailer. What have you guys got on the horizon for the podcast? Anything that's in the works or in the talks that you guys are solid about?
Well, one of the biggest things, the transitions that we're doing, is now that we've done one season, and we've got the players are comfortable with the world and things like that. We made a conscious decision that we're transitioning away from Shadowrun Anarchy, and we're transitioning to Shadowrun 6th edition, which is the newest edition. And there's a reason behind that, mostly because the vibe of the show, really the theme of the show is these are characters. These are real people characters. They're not sociopaths who sit in their blank room with the gun in their hand waiting for the phone call to go to work. They have real lives, and they have parents, they have friends and things like that are interested or even interfere with their lives. And that's kind of what we wanted to showcase in the first season. As the seasons progress, I mean, just by virtue of what's been going on, they're going to become a little bit more efficient and competent in what they do. And we wanted to reflect that with a rule change. It's not going to change the way we play. It's just going to increase. Essentially, it's going to increase the danger and just kind of like the stakes of how things are going.
Yeah, I think it also helps us to like structure certain elements of even the story. Like, you know, in one of the recent episodes that we recorded, Val goes through and actually has to use more in-depth technomancer skills, which throughout the majority of the first season, she was doing things that maybe were a little bit out of her scope, but then also on the flip side, and Shannon loves to make fun of me for this, very low-tech solutions for things that was a dot motif, not necessarily something that should have translated to a technomancer. So I think, like, just with that experience in what we've recorded so far in the new edition, I think that is going to translate very heavily into how our characters transition as well.
It's got to be exciting that you guys can sort of up your game without changing your game. Like I said, sliding into another edition, but it's still the same game. It's not. I'm just trying to think of an example. Like when a D&D 3.5 became 4th edition, that was like a crazy huge change. Is there anything about 6th edition you guys can tell me that you're excited? Like a more comprehensive skill list, more comprehensive backgrounds or traits that would affect what you're talking about? Could you make some kind of like dice crunching or sort of character sheet example that any gamer listening would something you guys are excited about that's coming?
I could go on and on for days, so I'm going to let anyone else who wants to answer. I'm going to give you a second to see if you want to say something.
Hi, I'm your local rules lawyer, and my favorite thing about moving to 6th edition is that there are more things that I can now exploit. Because I'm the only person. I mean, I think Eric reads the whole book as well, but I'm the only.
I have also read the whole book, Maddie.
Did you?
Yeah,
Did you?
I did this time. Thank you.
Well, there's reading and remembering, right, Maddie? I mean, that's
it's different. Know your codex, Shannon.
Don't feel bad, Shannon. I'm terrible. I actually have like 2 rules lawyers like per show, and I'm like, okay, I'm running the show, and what do you want to do? I don't know how to do that. You look that up. We'll move forward in time to this guy. What are you doing? And then they'd come back to me, and I'd still make the ruling, but you know what I mean? As opposed to like, especially a live show where you just kind of go, hang on, let's look this up, and there's this argument ensuing, right? So we have these rules lawyers in the show that are like, you know, this. We just started a Pathfinder 2nd edition last year, and it's new to everybody because the rules have only been out, like, we're just going on rule 2, right? So when something new happens in the adventure, it actually works where you can go, ooh, let's talk about poisons. How do they work, Joe? And my guy goes on about it, right? How new is the 6th edition Shadowrun? Could you guys get away with doing that? Like explaining the game mechanic in the show so that people learn to play alongside you? Or
it came out Gen Con 2019. I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're
Fairly new.
so you're 2 years in, but there should be like Shadowrun fans should have a basic idea of, are they playing it? Do they want to play it?
Yeah. Also, like that's not really our style. Like Eric had said before, we cut heavily, so any rules explaining getting cut out
Okay.
most of the time.
Well, I'm afraid I've gone well over my time today, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm so happy that you guys came on the show. I love the show. I'm going to continue to listen to it and get caught up to season 2. That's for damn sure, and see what happens in the misadventures. I've been speaking with Shannon, who plays Eris, also the creator of the Resting Glitchface Shadowrun, soon to be 6th edition podcast. Her lovely friend Dot, who plays Val the Savant. I don't want to put that other word in front of that because you're just so charming when you play that
Thank
I
you.
don't care about anything down in the dumps little character. Maddie, personal favorite as Joe Collateral, and of course a DM definitely worth his salt in NPCs and storytelling. Eric, it's definitely a pleasure to meet you, sir. And I would ask you to go on Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you find your podcasts. And even if you're not a Shadowrun or even not a futuristic fan, if your whole trope is D&D, I'm telling you, a change of pace, Shadowrun fan or not, the Resting Glitchface podcast is definitely worth you checking out. I'm GM Jeff Ball, and this is Attack of Opportunity, and we will see you next time.